Welcome to the Freedom Report, brought to you by Patriot Shit Outfitters, www.patriotshit.com. Use promo code TFMR2022 at checkout to get 10% off everything in the store. Help them out, help us out, and help support the movement for liberty. Thank you, everybody that has gone to Patriot Shit Outfitters and helped us out. It means a lot to us. Without further ado, we're going to bring on Mr. Jeremy Dieter.
Hola. We got Eli Robinson with us already. And for the people that are going to be watching this in replay, if you're in Ohio, even if you're not in Ohio and you find a way to support, Mr. Robinson is running for position here in Ohio. So that's, as Patriots, we gotta fill those seats with Patriots and make sure that if they're gonna if another election is gonna be stolen from us, then they're gonna have to do it with our people right there. So support that guy for sure. And I can see we got more people coming in. Joe Axe, good to see you. Gillis Spirit 2, good to see you. Miss Conklin, how are you? Hi. She says hi, everybody. District 90 representative for Mr. Robinson. We appreciate you running, man. We really do. How is everybody on this very famous day? We were backstage before the show talking about Easter and Ishtar and Christianity and eggs of fertility from pagan goddesses and how this all came to be. And it's really reflective of our nation, this hodgepodge of people and a hodgepodge of ideas that, built a culture. And what early Christians did was Christianity was spreading like wildfire, and it was spreading like wildfire to pagans. And the pagans had their own rituals and ceremonies and holidays and culture, and they were doing things during equinoxes and solstices and things like this. So when Christians, when those pagans converted to Christianity, a lot of times they would keep the same dates for celebration, but they would change it, and they would change it over to, Jesus Christ and Christianity. And it's never been that big of a deal for America. Maybe up until now, where you hear a lot of this talk about, what are the silly Christians doing? Well, these are people who have forsaken their own history. They don't know, why this nation's first flag was a Christmas tree that comes from German culture, which is heavy Teutonic and pagan, So these are Christians who crusaded, Christians who conquered, and not always through war. It was the idea of Christianity a lot of times that took over a region and, supplementing, or changing, no longer worshiping some pagan god, but now worshiping Jesus Christ and changing their culture and traditions. That's a huge deal. I mean, that's big. That's very, very big. And this was a way of adapting. This was a way of making transitions not petty or seemingly materialistic, or, it wasn't learning the letter of the law, learning the letter of the word to forsake its heart. It was what we need to be focusing on here is God. The day and all of this, we'll try to keep the best records we can, of course, but God needs to be the pinnacle, and on these dates, this is also a date of, it used to be anyway, recognition of Christian accomplishment and Western accomplishment. It wasn't something to berate. It wasn't something to say, oh, you silly Christians, Ishtar and all of this, you all got it wrong. No, we know we have an Ascension Day, but we celebrate it now. And Thomas was bringing up how there's a little bit of, at the very least, peculiarity where you're celebrating this and you're celebrating it in the spring and not on the actual Ascension Day, and what happens in spring. And Thomas, did you want to expound on that?
Well, it essentially is that And I personally believe that it's close to the day that it happened. I don't know if we're actually hitting the day that it actually the crucifixion happened, but what we're seeing is, so in spring, what happens? Those things that were dead are resurrected and brought back to life for the summer and to provide for the people. And so with God and with Christ sacrificing himself, knowing that he was sacrificing himself, um, he was killed, he was entombed, and then he was resurrected. And so the same thing happens in spring, that those things that are good are resurrected and brought back into life. And so it shows that this is God's blood is the seal of the new and everlasting covenant. There will be no other covenant until the end of time between man and God. And so there is only one covenant left, and that is the everlasting covenant of Christ, that he did. He sacrificed himself, who was blameless and sinless, sacrificed himself for a sinful world. And so he is also our Passover in that way. So Passover amongst the Jews, it talks about the days of the Pharaoh when the Jews were instructed to paint lamb's blood above their door, to make sure that the plagues and the wrath of God passed over them. And so Christ, in that same way, has become that Paschal lamb, or become that blood shed for us so that we may be passed over by God's wrath. And only believing in God, in Christ, and only through Christ can we accept and inherit that idea of being passed over by the wrath of God, because we deserve everything that we get. But Christ in his way has averted that. So if we do not accept Christ, then we are saying that we reject Christ's sacrifice, and we are fine with being subject to God's wrath. And so that's the way it's always seemed to me, is that Christ has sacrificed for us though we don't deserve it. And he has made it so that if we believe on him, we can avert God's wrath towards us. And this is the same thing with the Patriot movement that we're doing now, is for all intents and purposes, it looks like we're at the end of our rope. We're at the end of time. We're coming upon some very hard times. And only through the believing in Christ and the believing in God and his word and his promises are we going to avert a group of people, the people that believe in Christ and believe in the nation that was founded on Christian values. The only way we can avert the wrath of God is through coming back to his word and coming back to Christ, and renewing ourselves in that same vein.
Yeah, we're looking at, and Gillis had said that there's a lot of satanic events that go on throughout the month of April, and there's a couple of months that are like that. April is one, December is another, and I look at it like I listen. I love the disruption that God causes in evil. Otherwise, they would have an entire month of just being able to perform evil and it go without any opposition. But here we are, and within their unholy months, here's God coming in and being a disruption, where his people come together and they pray. And I've always liked that. I like that. I like that. I think it just fits with God's nature that he's not going to allow evil to go unchecked. He's always going to insert himself, and he's always going to be able to insert himself. The winter solstice, December and all of that, where, what are we looking at then? We celebrate the birth of Jesus, and that also didn't happen in December, we're pretty sure. And, so I think it's very purposeful. It's very, it's slick. It's very slick the way that it's done. I think it's very intentional, and I've always kind of enjoyed that about it.
Well, and also we have to understand that Satan cannot create. And so Satan cannot make anything that is new or different, or he cannot create in any way, shape, or form. He can only twist, pervert, and invert things that God has created. So every festival that's satanic, will always fall on a holy day because Satan has to mock it. So, like if you talk about the witching hour, 3 p.m. is the time when Christ was crucified, or at least the way we understand it. So the witching hour is 3 a.m. because it's the complete opposite of what God has made. So he will always do things that are to mock, invert, pervert, or destroy things that God has created for his worship, and try to turn it to his will. And I think that's something to also understand about a lot of these holidays is they will make holidays that are on God's holy days just to mock and pervert. And it is up to the people to which reason and why they celebrate, the certain dates that we have.
Yeah, it sounds to me like they're copying God's tactic, and it won't work. Patriot apologist, my lady, she said 2 handsome faces this week. Thomas, we never get to see your mug there, buddy.
Well, I try to save you guys from seeing my ugly face, but
Lori Chipman is here with us. Thank you for being here. Travis is here with us under the Kelly Barrios account. John Age, the official Anomic Age channel, said he's not able to stick around forever, but he's happy to make it for a bit, man. We appreciate you being here. American Patriots Broadcasting, hashtag True Flag Action. We appreciate you being here. Paul Krause, love to all my brothers and sisters. God bless. 3%. That's right. James Baird, how are you, brother? We believe that this is also this day especially is tied to a lot of thankfulness. And Thomas and I were talking, and the way we see it, the way that we see this situation with everything that's transpired with the case in Michigan. For those of you who do not know, I'm talking about the Whitmer kidnapping plot that the FBI just got found guilty on for entrapment. Listen, it took a lot of courage for you guys to support us. It took a lot for you guys to be in the chat and be loud and proud during the trial. This wasn't easy, man. This wasn't easy, right? It's not easy to support people that are possibly, making themselves look like lunatics.
yeah.
Not a whole lot of people wanted to support those guys, and hardly anybody thought they were going to be found not guilty and then acquitted. Even though, we advocated that this wasn't right, that this, they should not be found guilty. The federal government has a 99 percentile conviction rate, and we knew that we were up against a juggernaut, and so did you. You guys didn't back down. You guys didn't waver. Your support has been consistent. I don't know if you guys know this, and I'm sure it's okay to say. The support that Barry has been getting in jail there in Nuevo, he is just unreal. It's unreal, the love that he's been shown.
Exactly. And in that vein, I need to say to everybody, so if you got a smartphone, or I don't know if you could probably look it up on PC, get it's called Ameelio, Ameelio, and it's an app you can get on your phone, and you can send letters and cards to Barry. Barry has specifically requested that anybody who sent money or anything, if you guys could send him an Ameelio and say, hey, I'm so and so, I sent you, this money. He'll send everybody a thank you as he can. I'll type it into the chat. I'm going to see if I can find the actual website. But if you have a smartphone, you can just go to your Google Play Store and find Ameelio, Ameelio, and it'll let you send postcards and stuff. And he loves getting those. Because really, there's a lot of support out there that we were not expecting.
Yeah, and he specifically asked that if you have sent him money, to please also send him a card through Ameelio so that he knows who to thank. He's sitting in there and he wants to write letters. He wants to contact people. He wants to show gratitude. I haven't said this before. When I was on the phone with Brandon Caserta before he was released, he said, and the other guys were there too, and they all agreed. They said that if this is what has to happen and we have to be in here to expose what the FBI is doing, then so be it. We're happy to be here. Barry, on another phone call, said, being a patriot with all of you that are in the chat here and with us has been the greatest honor of his life. This is after he has spent 18 and a quarter months behind. I don't know if you guys know this. When you do time, county time is the hardest time. That's the worst time you'll do. You want to get sent to your parent institution, because then you can kind of stretch out. You get to go outside, you get better food, you can exercise, you can start to get into your own routine, you can get your headphones so you can listen to the television, you get on the commissary and you get your cigarettes or whatever it is you need, and you got your own bed, and you don't have to sit there, and you're not in this tight space with all these other people and all of this. Just to give you an idea, that county time is the hardest time to do, period. You're in 24-hour lockdown all the time. That's just how it is. Now they've tried to institute where they take everybody out for an hour a day, but they don't do it. The food is horrible. They violate all kinds of rights while you're in there because nobody can do anything about it. He hasn't explained it to me, but he said and made mention that he's not always been safe while being locked up. And I want you to know all of that to tell you that through all of that, he expresses his gratitude and says that standing with all of you and knowing all of you has been the greatest honor of his life as a patriot. And he's saying it while he's locked up. He's saying it while he's getting ready to go into retrial. And we just want you guys to know, man, we're also grateful because everybody, let's just be honest, man. People were looking at us like we were either the dumbest people in the nation to try to go against the federal government when they've already got us under investigation and have locked up our friends, and we're still screaming from the rooftops, these guys are innocent, these guys are innocent. And the courage that it takes for you guys to openly support us and do that in a public way, man, look, all of us are just so grateful. To look at the patriot community now, it's just it's an amazing blessing. It's an amazing blessing and an honor to be part of. It is.
And
we really appreciate you guys.
And we've all sacrificed. I mean, Barry most of all, the guys who are in jail most of all, but when we started this, like Jeremy said, like people were looking at us like you guys are supporting terrorists, this and that. And it was coming from not from the left, but from our own movement, where people were telling us, we were harming the movement, we were hurting the movement, and that we weren't doing the right thing. And but what it comes down to is, some people might have said some crazy stuff, but nothing compares to what the government has done against the people. That's really what it boils down to. And these men were patriots, and we all have, we all make dark jokes or jokes that are kind of over the top. Nobody deserves to face double life in prison for jokes or memes or whatever. And that's what Barry and Adam faced, and so they've already faced a 5 days of deliberation of a jury and 18 months of sitting in jail, and now they're going to put them through it again. And how is that not cruel and unusual punishment? And how is how is it that if the jury could come up with no guilty verdict, why are we not siding with the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty? The presumption of innocence is most sacred in America, and yet these guys are being denied it. And they're still in upbeat spirits, and they're still talking to us and saying, we're willing to fight, we're willing to do all this stuff, and it shows that that sacrifice is worth it. And we're bringing our country back to a place where it needs to be, where people are willing to sacrifice and live and die for their freedoms. And if we, and it's bringing about a new age. I really think I've seen the biggest change I've ever seen in American people in the last year, a couple of years or so. That people are beginning to be willing to sacrifice, and Barry and Adam especially, and the guys who were in before but got found innocent, they sacrificed a lot. And for them to say, I'm fine with being in here as long as if this is what is needed, then I'm willing to do that. That is the biggest thing. Is saying, as a patriot, I'm willing to make that sacrifice, and I'm willing to trust God and have faith that He will bring me through this. Because if we separate and we allow ourselves to be scared off from congregating by the federal government, then we'll definitely lose. And Benjamin Franklin said it: if we'll either all hang together or we'll all hang separately, but we will all surely hang. That's what it is. We have to hang by our friends, and regardless of what the media says, and regardless of all the charges that the federal government wants to bring down, we have to stick together, because it's our only strength. And we have to be willing to sacrifice, and that sacrifice will be rewarded if we have faith that God will bring us through it. Because I have no other explanation for the fact that we even got 2 innocent convictions against a court that was rigged by the federal government is a minor miracle, not a minor, a major miracle to me. And it shows that there is a God out there, and that He is rewarding those who are faithful and who are strong and who are willing to sacrifice even in the face of adversity.
We have no power, clout, or influence. We do not have money. We do not have resources. We do not have connections. The only thing that we've had this entire time is God. That's it. That's all we've had. When I talked to Barry yesterday, he said that I said, man, I hate the fact that you're there. He said, it's all good, bro. He said, God's got me. And, we're going to get through this, and it's for purpose, and he's encouraging me, and, we're in a situation where we need to recognize this victory as a patriot community as a whole. We really do, and recognize what got us here, the position that we're in, and what we can do about it, because there's quite a bit. We're not without recourse. We are not without options. This actually moves us in a lot of positive directions. And October 10th is when the cases start on the state level for the FBI's plot to kidnap the governor. And we're going to be covering that as well. Those are not rich men. Those are not men of means. Those, all we have is God. That's all we've ever had was, keeping a faith and a hope in our Lord, that things would go the way that they should, that this wouldn't be another injustice that all of us would have to see and suffer, that, things could actually be done, that we could affect and change their lives and the lives of many people around them. And we understood the implications, and we just stayed with it because God's all we've ever had. That was it. And now you see that God came through and shocked an entire nation and international press corps. No one thought that these guys were going to go innocent, except for the people here.
Yeah,
the people that were praying about it, the people that were saying, listen, this isn't right, and I don't know, we just
that to me is proof. That to me, I mean, and these things that are so unlikely and so out of the ordinary are proof to me that God is with us, and God exists, and God is in control of the things that happen on the earth. Yes, this is the dominion of Satan. It is the physical world. And it has physical desire. Our bodies have physical desires. We have temptation. We have sin. But in the end, those who are faithful and those who are willing to say, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice if it means a better tomorrow for my family, a better tomorrow for my children, and a better tomorrow for everybody that lives in America. That itself is a sign that God exists and that God is in charge of everything that we do. Because like Jeremy said, I had no, when we got into this, I was like, there's no way I cannot support my friends who are in jail. They might have said some crazy stuff, but regardless of all that, I know for a fact that they did not do what they're being charged of doing. And that all they wanted was to figure out a way to protect people from the riots that were happening, or to protect people from the belligerent government that was coming down on them, and they were willing to sacrifice, and so are we. And we have to, if we're outside and we can do, and we're free and we're still able to exercise our freedoms, we need to do everything within our power to help these people. And sometimes we're going to get hurt for that, by the FBI because and the powers that be, because they don't want us doing this. But at the end of the day, it's God. God's in control of everything, man. It's been the most eye-opening and religious, the closest thing to a religious experience I've ever seen. Having the amount of fear of knowing that the FBI is after you. They're coming after you, and they're coming after you regardless of what you do, solely because of what you believe in politically, and solely because you believe in the Constitution, and you're a Christian, and you're a person that they don't want to have power. They don't want the Constitution to be back in force because that's going to hold them accountable. And we know we're the underdog, but that knowing still gives us comfort in that we have faith that God will lead us out of this, and God will make sure that we are the victors over all the obstacles and over everything. All the decks that are stacked against us have no chance against the one true living God that is the Father of Christ. Christ is the physical representation of God. And I believe that with all my heart, and I believe that he will protect me from everything that they can throw at us. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can realize as a movement, is that God does exist and he's on our side. And it's okay to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. American Patriots Broadcasting said, praise God, but don't lean on a shovel and pray for a hole. God gives us a choice to act or not. Pray like there is no tomorrow and act. Patriots are God's helpers. And this is this is also my belief. So this is why we remain fervent in prayer, because if God tells us to act, we will without hesitation. We know not to hesitate. If God says, this is what I need you to do, well, we're going to go do it. Period. End of story. There is no question. And that's why we remain men and women of prayer. This is why we remain in contact with God, so that we know what he wants us to do. The revelations of, is there a God? And if so, where? And all of this. Every human being has asked themselves that. Within that desire, within that curiosity, is that, and I'm not going to present it as a fact, I'm going to present this as a question, is that proof of God? That all of us are born innately with this same desire. What are the chances? If we're just a random creature, then how is it that we are all born with a desire to be loved, to fit in, to have a place to be and a purpose to be there with? Is that proof of God? Is that proof of a creator God that said, you're going to be born with these things innately so you can find me? Or is it some weird coincidence? Is it some strange science that just says, you're this creature and you're a curious one, that's it. Look around. Is God real? I don't know. Can you make a tree? And I don't mean, can you plant a seed? I mean, can you make a tree? Because if the answer is no, something did somewhere. And when you look at its function, when you look at its purpose, when you look at its branches and they look like a human lung, and then you find out the trees give you oxygen to breathe. Is all of this supposed to be coincidence, or can it be divine? It's a question we have to ask ourselves. Yeah. So, and the last part, the third way that God reveals himself to everyone on the planet El Dirte, or has, is through being here, living, sweating, breathing, drinking, eating, dying, then overcoming death. People are inherently liars, okay? Our billboards are full of crap. Our people are full of crap. Our advertisers, we are just a species of BS, all right? How is it that a story that, if the people told it that he had come, that he wasn't in the tomb, and then they saw him and they spoke with him and they talked to him, they had every reason to lie and say, I didn't see him, because it would get them killed. It would
Yep.
get them hurt. It would get them ostracized. They had every reason to lie and
Yep.
say, no, I didn't see that. It wasn't me. I was at my mom's house. You know what I mean? No, no, not at all. They told the truth. They said what happened. Now, I want to ask you, when lies are so prevalent in our lives, we drive right past the billboards, we flip through the pages on the magazines, we don't think anything less about the lies that we're being fed all the time from advertisers and marketers and corporations and sometimes churches, unfortunately. When these lies, hit us, how is it that we're supposed to believe that for 2022 years humans were able to maintain a lie? Like, that's what happened. That they maintained something that they just made up, that they would have died to make up. Right? So Jesus's life, if you know it, if you study it, of course, tells you he's God. But if you have no knowledge of that, and you understand even just infinitesimally our human nature and our propensity to lie and be dishonest, you see that mathematically there's a very low percentage chance that we would be able to maintain a lie, even a coordinated, structured one. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. It doesn't work within the confines of the human structure and everything. Not for 2022 years. You may be able to convince a group of people and then have yourself a fancy little cult and everybody drink some really fine tea. That could happen. But for 2022 years, no.
Well, not
No.
just that, but the apostles spread the word. If they did not witness something absolutely miraculous, why would they risk their lives to evangelize people that would kill them just for evangelizing, that literally spit on them, did not give them food, starve them, would crucify them just for saying the words that they're going to that they were saying. They were saying that God fulfilled his covenant. And in the Old Testament, if you look, every experience of Jesus Christ is laid down in the Psalms. The casting of lots for his clothing, the torture he went through, the crown of thorns, it is all in the Psalms that were written hundreds of years before his existence. And then you have people who saw Christ's life and said, yes, he didn't say I'm the Son of Christ. He said, who do you believe me to be? And they said he's the Son of Christ. And they were willing to give up their lives, and they were willing to die to evangelize the rest of the world. If you look at the lives of the apostles, they were not great lives. They were tortured, they were ostracized, they were spit upon, they were abused, yet they were willing to do all that to give the word of God, the good news, the gospel, that the Messiah had returned and died for our sins so that we may be redeemed. They were willing to die for that and be abused for that and live a life of poverty for that, to give that word to the rest of the world and say, look, you don't have to live as you've been living. You don't have to do an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. There is something greater than yourself. And that is the biggest thing. And now we have countries like China, like the liberal hegemony, that they want to be in charge. They want to be the redeemers. They want to be God on earth. And that is why they're so upset about Christ and about the Christian faith and about the living God, because they are the descendants of Satan. They cannot be anything else. They have to be descendants of the lie that says, no, 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 no. I can be just as good as God. I can be God. And they know no truth but power, because they only understand power. They don't understand the power that is in meekness and telling the truth and being willing to sacrifice for your fellow man. They don't understand that they want only power and what they can get for me, 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 me. They want me. They want, you know what I mean? They want the everything they want is for themselves, for me, me, me. I want power. I want to be this. I don't want to worship Christ because I want to be the focus of attention. That is the Look at the recent generations. Look at we're essentially millennials, from Gen X to millennials to Zoomers. They're all this generation of, I must have fame, I must have glory, I must have glory for myself and for none other. I want to be worshipped, and that's a definite reaction of the atheism and the not and the agnostics and the people that are making everybody doubt God. That's what we get in a society, and our society is inherently Christian, inherently a society that values goodness and religion and the Christian religion, and everything that countries like China and the globalists and all that, everything they've done has been to destroy that and take that down. And if they could not create, where they could not, deceive, they perverted. Where they could not pervert, they destroyed. And that is what they're coming after us to do. And that is look at the metaverse that they're trying to push. That's a whole nother lie. It's not just a lie, it's a whole world of lies. So we're up against absolutely the devil. And that is another reason why I believe that God exists, because if there is a devil, then there is a God.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to use this to segue into that video that you have, that 12-minute long audio that you have. So the people that first professed that Jesus Christ was Lord stood to die to do it, and if they weren't killed, they were going to lose everything, most likely. And they faced the persecution. The early Christians that were used by the Romans as tiki torches. They were a big pain in the butt, because you could get a Jew or a Muslim or whoever to forsake their God most of the time. Christians wouldn't do it, and they would just stand there and accept their fate and their punishment, and they would be more than happy to do it in the name of their God, because for us, that's a huge deal. Like, if you're going to martyr us for God, like, you don't even know the blessing you're giving us, the eternal blessing. And that's why we're a huge pain in the butt for power structures. So I say that to ask this: if you knew that you stood to lose, and let me give you guys a hypothetical that we hope we never see here in the US, but seems to look more likely. You go to your local grocery store, and they ask you at the entrance, are you a Christian? Now, you're standing there with the people you love the most, and if you say yes, you're a Christian, you're not going to be able to shop for food. And they know that if they ask Christians will tell them, we don't lie. We don't have tequila and all that. We're not Muslims. We're Christians. We're not going to lie. We're not going to forsake or deny our God. And would you do it, knowing that you'd have to turn around and look at the people that you love the most, and they're going to be hungry along with you? Is that what you would do? Do you have that? Do you have that faith in God? Do you will you do what's right? Will you do what's moral when you stand to lose? There was a former Special Forces guy by the name of Jeremy Brown, and he did what was right. He did what was moral. He did what he was supposed to do. I imagine that's how he carried himself while he was in active combat as well, as a Special Forces. I believe he was a Green Beret.
Yeah, that was, yep.
Yeah, and he fought for this country his whole adult life, and I want you guys to hear this. There's a good find on Thomas's part here. Well done, sir. And, think about this, and think about the question that I asked it. Are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to give up? And it doesn't have to be death. It doesn't have to be imprisonment. Are you willing to sacrifice? So here you go.
And I want to just add to that before I play this. This man gave up everything. He gave up his comfort. He gave up his position. He was even offered the ability to be absolved via the FBI, because they were saying, look, if you just work for us and you help sell out your fellow patriots down the river, you got nothing to worry about. We'll even pay you for it, essentially. And so this guy had every opportunity to sell out his fellow man and what he knew to be right, and yet he chose to do the opposite. And so that is another glaring reason that this the Christianity and the ideals and moral dogmas of it. I don't want to say dogmas, but the moral rules of Christianity is we're sacrificing because this is not it. The world is not the only thing there is, and we know that. And we know there's a God, and we know there's a heaven, and we know there's a hell, and we know that this is not the only thing there is. And so we sacrifice for it, and this man sacrificed. So I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to play you the recording of the reading of this article because I'm not subscribed, so I can't just read the article to you. So I'm going to play this recording.
Letter from January 6th. Prisoner to Americans don't do nothing. In a letter obtained exclusively by the Epoch Times, a January 6th prisoner asks, "Are you ready to light brush fires of liberty in the souls of men? Then don't do nothing." The letter, dated December 30th, 2021, is revealed here in its entirety for the first time. "My name is Jeremy Brown," the letter begins. "I am a 20-year retired U.S. Army Special Forces combat veteran. On January 5th and 6th, 2021, I was in our nation's capital as part of an all-volunteer protective detail tasked with providing security for organizers and speakers at a legally permitted political rally. On September 30th, 2021, I was arrested at home in Tampa, Florida by approximately 30 to 40 heavily armed federal agents and local law enforcement. They came in full force to serve a misdemeanor arrest warrant for being in an unauthorized area. These were no ordinary agents. They were agents working as part of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Oddly, in the 9 months prior to that day, I had never been contacted or questioned by any investigators about this case. Stranger still, the arrest warrant and search warrant had only been granted 1 day prior. This, despite numerous members of my protective detail having been arrested many months prior. While this may sound unusual to you, I know exactly why it happened. According to Brown, the same JTTF agents who arrested him on September 30, 2021, had tried to recruit him as a confidential informant on December 9, 2020. Their pitch, he said, was intended to gauge his willingness to infiltrate law-abiding citizen groups that had no criminal history and certainly were not designated terrorist groups. Brown declined their offer. But, having what he calls a healthy mistrust of federal law enforcement, Brown made an audio recording of the exchange, which, after many efforts to delete it from the internet, has been shared and reposted by numerous others, keeping it alive. The most current iteration was shared by the Gateway Pundit. On January 6, as Brown stood next to the stage waiting for President Donald Trump to address the crowd, he described how he was again contacted by phone by one of the same JTTF agents. Brown explained to the agent where he was and what he was doing. So, on January 6, 2021, he wrote in his letter, "They were well aware of my location and reason for being there." On January 7, Brown said he sent a video of unarmed female Air Force veteran, Ashley Babbitt, being shot by a Capitol Police officer Lieutenant Michael Byrd in a text message, saying, "Here is a contact report for you." The agent acknowledged watching the video with a wow. That was the last direct communication Brown had with that agent or the JTTF until he was arrested on September 30, 2021. In the days and weeks that followed the events of January 6, I was disgusted and appalled at the blatant lies that were coming from the media, politicians, and the Department of Justice, Brown wrote further in his letter. In particular, it was FBI Director Christopher Wray's testimony on the House floor that made me realize I had to go public with what I knew. That was when Brown contacted podcast host Brandon Gray, who conducted the 2-hour interview where he exposed the recording of the JTTF's recruitment effort and provided his professional assessment. "I knew I was making myself an FBI target, but I had sworn an oath to the U.S. Constitution, so the choice to speak out was an easy one," Brown wrote. Brown cites the June 8, 2021, investigative article by Darren Beatty of Revolver.News that exposed evidence of the FBI's potential involvement in staging the events of January 6. The article also uncovered how the Michigan governor kidnapping plot seemed to be a dress rehearsal for the FBI for January 6. While trying to blame a pro-constitutional group the FBI labeled as far-right militia, Brown noted how most of the players in the plot turned out to be FBI informants or actual agents. Oopsie. Knowing how correspondence is monitored and often censored by authorities, Brown's girlfriend, who spoke to the Epoch Times under the condition of anonymity for fear of being harassed, said she is surprised his letter managed to slip through their scrutiny unscathed. That came through the mail, she explained, noting how the focus of prison officials monitoring emails and phone calls may have enabled his letter to slip through. He wrote that in jail and was allowed to mail it out. Everything they bring up in court is about phone calls. For her, the repeated visits by the FBI, Joint Terrorist Task Force, the ATF, and Homeland Security have been done for no other reason than to intimidate her and cause fear. It is the biggest violation of every single privacy I have ever had, she said. They have been to my house. They searched our house for 5.5 hours initially. Then they came back and did another search. They took samples of carpet. They took dog hair. They subpoenaed all of my bank accounts and accessed the trust one have set up for Jeremy. I have absolutely no privacy. They know everything about me and I'm not the one being charged. I've done nothing, but they have infiltrated every aspect of my life. In the last 2 weeks, I have had 2 black SUVs with heavily tinted windows just sitting at the end of my street. My neighbor knocked on the window and asked them to roll it down. They wouldn't. She noted how Brown had previously written another letter and sent it to the Epoch Times. According to the January 14th report, Brown wrote, on December 11, 2020, the exact same Joint Terrorism Task Force agents that arrested me attempted to recruit me as a confidential informant, and told the Epoch Times he believes his arrest and prosecution are payback for his refusal to become a confidential informant. She added that, while Brown has been arraigned, he has not been to trial or formally charged with anything. He's in limbo, she said. No hearing dates have been set. We are still in appeal for the bail and there's motion to suppress the original search warrant. In the meantime, Brown remains a prisoner of his own country. As I write this account on December 30, 2021, I mark my 92nd day of being held in the maximum security section of the Pinellas County Jail as an FBI whistleblower and political prisoner. To date, these are the crimes the FBI and Department of Justice are guilty of committing under Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 242, Deprivation of Rights under Color of Law. Violations of Article 1 of the Bill of Rights by criminalizing free speech and peaceful assembly for attending a permitted rally on public grounds. Violations of Article 2 of the Bill of Rights by passing and enforcing unconstitutional gun laws that violate the letter and intent of the shall not be infringed clause. Violations of Article 4 of the Bill of Rights by deceptively obtaining an unreasonable and illegal search warrant by lying to the issuing judge. When asked by me and my girlfriend to produce the warrant at the time of arrest, they refused. One agent was even recorded stating, "We don't know what we are looking for, yet. They should look for a copy of the Constitution and read it." Violations of Article 5 of the Bill of Rights by not reading me my rights prior to arrest and questioning. They are currently still depriving me of my life, liberty and property without due process of law. Violations of Article 6 of the Bill of Rights by making sure nothing is speedy, attempting to deny me access to any of the evidence against me, by denying my right to a public trial by claiming everything is sensitive or highly sensitive, yet leaking information to media outlets such as the Daily Beast who had my search warrant before I did. They are denying me the right to face my accusers by citing numerous unnamed witnesses, many likely to be FBI informants. Because I am locked away in jail, I do not have complete access to witnesses in my favor and all my contacts with legal counsel are on monitored systems. So far I have been denied access to my attorney 6 times due to COVID. Most egregious are the violations of Article 8 of the Bill of Rights by denying me bond and keeping me locked in maximum security. All illegal acts by the FBI and DOJ are meant to silence me and keep me from exposing their lies and corruption. Their fake charges and overzealous arrest were meant to intimidate not only me but also the American people. they think that this illegal imprisonment will break my will and allow them to coerce me into pleading to a crime I did not commit, or that will bolster their false narrative of January 6. But, how did we get here? In a 29-page opinion issued March 7, U.S. District Court Judge Carl Nichols dismissed charges against January 6 prisoner Garrett Miller, saying defendants can only be charged with obstruction if they directly attempted to affect a document, record, or other object in order to obstruct the ability of Congress to certify the election. Prosecutors had not even alleged that he had done so. On April 6, U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden acquitted January 6 prisoner Matthew Martin of all 4 counts for which he was charged, saying it was reasonable for Martin to believe that police officers invited him and others to enter the Capitol through the rotunda doors on January 6, 2021. The judge also said Martin's actions were about as minimal and non-serious as anyone who was at the Capitol that day. As I sit here in my jail cell being denied justice and my constitutionally protected, God-given rights, I wonder, is anyone irate or tireless enough to save our republic? Will our children and our children's children wonder what it was like to be free? If you're reading this, are you irate? Tireless? Are you willing to risk it all to set brushfires of liberty in the souls of men? Are you willing to risk everything? Or, will we just wait for some other good men to come along and do that something? The time to look in the mirror and answer that question is now. Trust me, the time to fight is not after the tyrant locks you in a jail cell. My name is Jeremy Brown, and I am a January 6 political prisoner being held in the very country I spent my entire adult life defending at the highest level I could achieve. As a Green Beret, I am trained and prepared for this, and as an American, I was born for this. I will fight until my dying breath before I surrender one letter of my liberty. I am only one man, but if I'm the only man, so be it. I know there are millions like me, and so I ask you, are you ready to light brushfires of liberty in the souls of men? Then don't do nothing. De oppresso liber. Jeremy Brown, U.S. Army Special Forces Master Sergeant. JeremyBrownDefense.com. FBIPoliticalprisoner.com. The Epoch Times has reached out to the FBI for comment. Joseph M. Hanneman contributed to this report.
All right, so that was definitely heart-wrenching.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that guy, you got to figure he's special forces. He's moved up in the ranks. He's definitely, paid his dues and sacrificed. And now he sits in a DC prison because what had happened was the Joint Terrorism Task Force came to his door 6 weeks before January 6th, said, do you want to work with us and infiltrate patriot groups? He said no. They came back again. He said no again. And then he went down there January 6th and was with a group of patriots. They locked up a bunch of his friends, and then he was still sitting on the outs, and then he got locked up. And so that's kind of the long and short of that. He didn't do anything. He didn't commit a crime.
Well, and not just that. It's not this, and this is not something that's out of the ordinary. I mean, you and me, we have open investigations on us as far as the feds are concerned. They said it in open court. Mike McDonald, he's being attacked. He's been raided twice. This isn't something that's gonna go away if we don't stand up. And we're gonna have to sacrifice a lot of comfort. I don't see it. I don't, and it's in line with our with our beliefs that our sacrifices are not for nothing. Our sacrifices will lead to a better world, and it's not about whether they benefit us in the long run or not. But I'm willing to sacrifice, and I know you're willing to sacrifice, and I know a lot of people in the chat are willing to sacrifice, even if they see none of the reward for it. And if it's only for our children to live in a world that's not like this. I believe that that's part of this whole understanding of God, and And our morals as Christians and American Christians and and especially American patriot Christians, it makes us unique in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah. McDonald said that, they raided him, wanted him to be a snitch. He said no. So they raided him again. And now they've got him under charges that only the Jimmy Buffetts of the world ever have to face, IRS tax evasion charges that make absolutely no sense, along with the Gretchen Whitmer case that makes no sense and the J6 case that makes no sense. This is obvious. This is blatant. They are coming after American patriots. They're coming after white Christians, specifically in some circles. They're coming after all patriots in some circles. It's a multifaceted attack. It comes after our beliefs, our spiritual beliefs, our nationalistic beliefs. And it's obvious, America is under attack. The American patriots are under attack. And sacrificing your time to be here with us is a sacrifice. We've got a family right now, the Sayer family. They're out there fishing while listening to us. And I just want you guys to know that all of us are jealous.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, but we, everyone takes out and does these little sacrifices and we got to keep it up, and we're going to follow God's word and what he says. And if he's not just going to pray to Thomas, he's not just going to answer Thomas's prayers and say, hey, Thomas, it's time to do something different. It's going to be Thomas. It's going to be me. It's going to be everybody who prays to him. He's going to tell us all that this is what we need to do. He's going to lay it on our hearts. And I think that's why we're here. I think that's why we discuss the criminality of the U.S. government via the Department of Justice and FBI so heavily, is because they're the ones targeting us. This is a big root of evil in this nation. It must be exposed and given the light of day. And we're not afraid of them. Now we're not going to like things that they do to us. Barry and them don't like or appreciate being locked up, but we do not fear any of it.
And I think
we're going to continue to stand and speak out against these people and what they're doing. And if God calls us to do something else, we will.
I think that our faith is the biggest thing that scares them, because it's something that's not physical. It's not something they can tangibly hold. It's not something they can tangibly measure or equate or plan for. And our faith is seeming to work. And so it scares them, because they're like, they don't want to believe in God. But when so many things happen that they can't explain, and they don't understand why these people who are literally nobodies, like me and Jerry, we're nobodies, I can barely make a living because of the shit they've done to my life. And I know Jeremy's had his own issues, and it's not like we're some great guys of wealth or whatever, but they still cannot stop us. They've been able to make our lives a little bit hard and a little bit worse off than we would be if we didn't do this. But beyond that, they can't really do much, and they don't understand it. And I think it scares the crap out of them that our faith is rewarded in a physical way that they can see, and they don't want to accept it, but yet they have to accept it because they don't have any other explanation as to why they're losing so heavily to men and women who are not. And we have to admit, they don't believe that we are of their caliber. They believe they are better than us. They believe that we're white trash and we're, just garbage. And yet we've been able to destroy them in many different ways. And I also think that we should give thanks to the lawyers that have been involved, especially Josh Blanchard and them. And I have a special banner that I'm going to put up for people. So if you guys want to, and then Jeremy, if you want to elaborate on this, if you guys want to reach out to Josh Blanchard and say, thank you for the work you've done for Barry and for the other guys, and for helping us get our guys out of jail, when they don't deserve to be where they're at, so he's done a lot of good work. So I'm going to put up Josh's contact info, and if you want to kind of expand on that before we finish the broadcast.
Yeah. Get your ink and quill out, everyone. Okay, here's what happened. During the trial, Barry, Adam, their defense lawyers, and the judge were all sent death threats. And Thomas and I were still subpoenaed to testify. And we told them, we'll go and whatever. Well, they raided the guy's house. It was in the morning time, but when they were in trial. And they raided his house, and you're not going to hear anything about it, I'm sure, because he's part of Antifa and BLM, that he's probably out on bond for threatening a federal judge, federal defense attorneys, and said that Barry's attorney, Josh, that we're giving you guys the contact information for, 616-773-2945, 616-773 2945. They're probably out on bond, but Josh continued to defend, continued, and he was told by Antifa and BLM that he's white trash, defending white trash, and all of this. So they, the BLM and Antifa are overtly racist, as we know, and it's okay. They feel it's okay for them to be racist and then threaten everybody. And I know they were arrested for it. I don't know where they are now. So we thought that, or I thought really, and Thomas and I both agreed that the guy he's done a bang up job. He got Barry an acquittal, and he's going to continue to represent him for the retrial. And he's received death threats from these freaking lunatics, even though we're supposed to be the terrorists. So what we're asking you guys is to share this federal defense lawyer's number. That way, people can call him and tell him thank you, and say thank you for what you've done. Not just for Barry, but for all of our guys, for everybody, what you've done for this movement. And that's all we're asking. Yeah. Just call up his office and say thank you. Just say, hey, we really appreciate you guys, and we appreciate the work that you've done. We know that you received death threats. We know that this wasn't easy, that the judge took away your ability to properly defend these guys, and you still came through. You still fought, and you still made it happen. Just send them a thank you. And that's all we're asking. If you guys want to share that number out, tell everybody the cause, tell them what's going on. Just drop a quick line. You can even do it over the weekend here if you want, and hit the voicemail. What we were thinking, man, like, think about this. If the Patriots melt the phone lines over the weekend and say, hey, they get 100 messages, with 100 thank yous from the Patriot community. That's who we are. You know what I mean? Everyone taking time out of their day to do that and just extend that kindness. That's who we are. That's what we are. And this is a chance for us to show it, where BLM and Antifa has already threatened this guy. Let's just tell him thank you. You know what I mean? Let's just say, hey, look, we appreciate you. So that's the thinking behind it.
I just want to let everybody know that. So the email where you would email him or call him is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I also put it in the chat. I want to thank everybody for being here. I know it's Easter. You guys didn't have to come out. We didn't have as great a numbers as we usually do, but it's understandable. I hope people catch the replay. This is something that we feel deeply about, that the Christian ethos and God is a major part of what we do, and the success we've seen in this movement. And that also goes hand in hand with showing people who have helped us, showing them, giving them thanks, even though they may not, be 100% on our level as to what they think about things. They deserve the thanks, and in that regard, that they, help defend our brothers. And the fact that instead of, getting a guilty verdict, they got, two innocents and two mistrials. That's huge. I mean, that's big. So just giving them the thanks, and giving them stuff, like, it's outstanding.
It is. Who would have thought that you guys supporting us and staying in contact with us, and us being in contact with the defense team, that we would be able to affect such change on a federal level with international implications in the headlines. mean, this is what we did, guys. This is what you did. And it was because you weren't scared. Michael McDonald's been raided 2 times. He's still standing up to these guys and facing charges. Our guys are in jail and they're thankful. They're humbled and they're thankful. They have gratitude. And they're like, look, if this is what has to happen to expose the FBI, then this is what has to happen, and just accepting of it. I mean, it's been amazing. And you guys are some of the toughest, just strongest freaking people, man, and bravest damn people to stand up against this federal government. You are recognized by us, man, and we appreciate you. And it's an honor to stand by you guys. Celebrate the ascension of Jesus's spirit today. Amen. And know that all of this FBI criminality that's going on, all of this traitorism, God's watching it through our eyes. He sees it. He knows what's happening, and he's holding us and he's guiding us, and it's going to be all right. We're okay. So love y'all. See you guys.
Also, before we go, just some housekeeping stuff. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. We have a lot of people that watch. I think it's, more than half that watch and aren't subscribed. So please subscribe if you can. It really helps us out. Also, check out www.thefreemanreport.com. I'll put it in the chat. It's our website. I'm working more on it every day to try to get more stuff up. If you're a writer and you'd like to write an article for the Freeman Report, I'd be willing to publish it. I can't buy it from you. I can't give you any money, but I'd definitely be willing to publish it. And if the donations come in where we can start paying people to write articles and stuff, we will. But we're just building. We're building and we're growing, and you guys are helping, and everything from sharing to subscribing to donating, all of it's appreciated. We love you guys. So yeah, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on the website. Donate if you can. Check out Patriot Shit Outfitters if you can, and use the promo code. We love you guys. God bless you guys. God bless the United States of America, and long live the Republic. You guys have a great rest of your Easter.